RWBY isn't a show that begins at episode 1. I have heard stories of some people that began the show there, which is fine. This video isn't meant to gatekeep those fans. I mean, it's the standard quota to begin a show there. However, I think each of Team RWBY's character trailers showcase their internal conflicts in a subtle manner. What I hope to showcase in this video essay is the importance these character trailers have for the arcs of our main characters. I'm going to try to avoid major spoilers the best I can with this video, but if you really don't like spoilers, I'd suggest checking this video out after catching up with RWBY. I'll be starting with Weiss's trailer first, because I want to save RWBY's trailer for last.
When I said I wanted to honor my family's name, I meant it, but it's not what you think. I'm not stupid. I'm fully aware of what my father has done with the Schnee Dust Company. Since he took control, our business has operated in a moral gray area.
That's putting it lightly.
Which is why I feel the need to make things right. If I had taken a job in Atlas, it wouldn't have changed anything. My father was not the start of our name, and I refuse to let him be the end of it.
Weiss's emotional turmoil is centered around legacy and lineage. Her abusive father, Jock, tore her family apart. I've seen some really thought-provoking takes on how Weiss's family members all respond to this abuse in different but very real ways. I also like to think this quote that starts Weiss's trailer off alludes to this aspect of the Schnee family story. Weiss's mother responds with freeze, simply letting Jock do as he pleases as she drowns herself in alcohol. Her sister, Winter, responds with flight, leaving her father for a place in Atlas's military. Her brother Whitley responds with fawning. He tries to win his father's attention by being the obedient child. Weiss's response is to fight, to disobey her father and attend Beacon Academy. This is why her opponent in this trailer is a suit of armor, possessed by a Grimm known as a Geist. We see more of these guys possess stuff in later volumes. It's a suit of armor styled after what her grandfather once wore. He seemed like a great person, but in an act of desperation, he gave a terrible man his blessings to marry into his family. I believe this armor represents Weiss's lineage, and her victory signals her first steps towards achieving her goals. It's thanks to her victory here she has a chance to attend Beacon Academy, and the scar she gets during this battle always serves as a reminder of the difficult trial she faced to carve her own path.
All my life, I fought for what I thought was right. I had a partner named Adam. More of a mentor, actually. He always assured me that what we were doing would make the world a better place. But of course, his idea of a perfect future turned out to be not perfect for everyone. I joined the academy because I knew huntsmen and huntresses were regarded as the most noble warriors in the world, always fighting for good. But I never really thought past that. When I leave the academy, how can I undo so many years of hate?
Up next is the Black trailer. One aspect of Blake that I've always kept in mind that separates her from the rest of Team RWBY is that she's the only one with two parents that are alive and still genuinely care for her. This leads to an interesting contrast with the other girls. RWBY, Weiss, and Yang couldn't choose different parents, but Blake could have chosen a different partner, or to fight for a different organization. That said, Blake couldn't have chosen how she was born in this world, as a faunus. Blake's main conflict stems from the damage her relationship with Adam and the White Fang caused her. I think the fact that the Black trailer is the only one of the four that predominantly features any of Team RWBY fighting with a partner is very purposeful. Just like how the White trailer is the beginning of Weiss's journey to reject what her father has done with the Schnee family name, the Black trailer is the beginning of Blake's journey to make up for her past acts as an extremist. We see how Adam plans to kill the crew members on the train, and Blake's true colors shine as she rejects his ideology. It's what the quote at the beginning of the short is about. Adam hopes for Blake to reject her soul, to do whatever he wants her to, but by doing so, he has become a burden. Her only liberation isn't with the White Fang anymore. It's getting away from him and their organization. This leads her into the show, and it makes sense that she's the girl that's the softest spoken, because she's seen the worst parts of the real world out of any of our four main characters. Detaching herself from Adam is her first steps to recovery, finding friends that genuinely care for her, and a partner that actually respects her for who she is.
Our parents were huntsmen. Our dad taught at Signal, and our mom would take on missions around the kingdom. Her name was Summer Rose, and she was like super mom. Baker of cookies and slayer of giant monsters. And then, one day she left for a mission and never came back. It was tough. RWBY was really torn up, but I think she was still too young to really get what was going on, you know? And my dad just kinda shut down. It wasn't long before I learned why. Summer wasn't the first love he'd lost. She was the second. The first was my mom. He wouldn't tell me everything, but I learned that the two of them had been on a team together with Summer and Crow, and that she'd left me with him just after I was born. No one had seen her since.
Why did she leave you?
That question. Why? I didn't know the answer, but I was determined to find out. It was all I thought about. I would ask anybody I could what they knew about her.
Yang's main internal conflict is riddled in abandonment issues. We can see in the Yellow trailer, Yang is searching for any information on her mother that she can find. We later see in Volume 2 that her search for information concerning her mother has been lifelong since she found out she was abandoned by her. Summer's death, while usually acting as more of an internal conflict for Ruby, still troubles Yang. Both of her moms leaving at such a young age left her without a mother figure, and she also held the burden of taking care of Ruby. This next point may be a stretch, but I do think Yang's flashiness in the Yellow trailer stems partly from her abandonment issues. The White trailer had Weiss versus one opponent, the embodiment of her familial legacy. The Black trailer ended with Blake making a decision that painted a target on her back. Both of those felt very personal. In this trailer, Yang makes a scene. It's clear Junior has no idea who she's looking for. But once she's gotten the center of attention, she doesn't lose it. She's loud, she wrecks the place completely. It's obvious she loves the thrill of beating up a bar full of shady crooks. Her jokey, brash exterior is a mask she puts up to hide her insecurities, which we see in full force during her arc in Volume 4, which is what the quote at the start of this trailer refers to, regarding the line about scathing eyes ask that we be symmetrical, one-sided, and easily processed. Yang's trauma is not easily processed. None of the girls' trauma is.
How do you handle all of this?
What do you mean?
I'm scared. I'm more scared than I've ever been in my life.
When Beacon fell, I lost 2 of my friends. I am scared. But not just for me. What happened at Beacon shows that Salem doesn't care if you're standing against her or not. She'll kill anybody. And that scares me most of all. I'd be lying if I said that it didn't hurt. That I didn't think about them every day since I lost them. That I didn't wish I had spent more time with them. If it had been me instead, I know they would have kept fighting too, no matter how dangerous it was. So that's what I choose to do. To keep moving forward.
I saved Ruby for last because her trauma seems the most unique to me in a sense. Weiss, Blake, and Yang are all 2 years older than Ruby. They have clear internal and external conflicts to deal with by the start of the show. Meanwhile, Ruby doesn't have an external conflict entering Volume 1. The Red trailer can be easily split into 2 important parts. Ruby visiting her mother's grave and Ruby having an intense action sequence with the creatures of Grimm. It's not that complex. With Weiss, Blake, and Yang, I feel like what they're dealing with is a bit more tangible in nature. The people that hurt them can be found, and their abuse or neglect addressed. Ruby can't do that. Ruby's main internal conflict is the disappearance of her mother. Unlike Raven and Yang, Summer cared for Ruby, loved Ruby, and her loss left a different feeling of grief than Yang felt with Raven. After Volume 3, when the rest of her team all felt the weight of their individual trauma on their shoulders and had arcs to overcome it, Ruby doesn't get to confront what truly eats away at her inside. Ruby instead continues moving forward like she always does, protecting people and fighting Grimm. That may sound like it makes for a boring arc for our main protagonist, but what makes her interesting in her own right is how her coping mechanism is both the show's major theme and her biggest flaw. Ruby Rose's perseverance is the purest embodiment of Ruby's creator, Matthew Ohm's philosophy, to keep moving forward. It's the reason every bad guy in Ruby is somebody stuck in the past. Ruby's bad guys are all characters that have taken their own trauma and use it to inspire them to make the world a worse place. If Salem kept moving forward, there would be no conflict in this show. Team Ruby's arcs are all centered around accepting their trauma, past mistakes or insecurities, and moving forward from them. This is why Weiss, Blake, and Yang's trailers all showcase their conflicts in one way or another. But Ruby has consistently bottled up her feelings as a coping mechanism to keep moving forward. Ruby's trailer superficially looks like it doesn't relate to her arc because it's so simple. She visits her mother's grave and fights Grimm, but this is exactly how she copes. Her work as a huntress likely gives her a sense of connection to her lost mother. That's all that Ruby has ever known her as an amazing huntress. What has become abundantly clear volume after volume is that this won't work forever. Each new emotional low Ruby hits brings her closer to breaking, The moment Ruby hits her darkest hour is likely to be the show's darkest hour, and it's all because we were introduced to her stoically tearing down a horde of Grimm. This was a deep dive on Ruby's trailers out of love for this show. I really tried to avoid spoilers best I could, and if you haven't seen it, I'd suggest giving it a shot. I'll leave a link for them in the description. As a creator, there's something really cool about seeing the animation, characters, and story of Ruby get better with each volume. Seeing how far the show has come in just the front-facing production is very inspiring to me. And these trailers just keep on giving. I wonder if there's anything else hidden in plain sight that we won't understand until the story is done.